Hey there guys, how are you? So the most important thing I want to mention before we talk about this film, before we discuss it, and before I even reference who this is right here, is this movie is near impossible to eat popcorn while you're watching it in a theater amongst other people.
Mm-hmm.
It took me like 17 minutes to finish 2 bites of popcorn because I was scared to make a noise.
Yeah, I noticed when we saw it at the screening that, like, the first time some actual music happened, you finally opened up your candy. Because you're like, okay, now there's a slightly loud scene. Like,
an hour and a half to open up a bag of Sour Patch Kids.
yeah.
This video is brought to you by the free-to-download app, Stardust. And stick around until the end of the video where I'm going to feature your reactions to the movie A Quiet Place, and I'll respond to them. Don't get scared. John Krasinski, or Jim from The Office, directs and stars in a film about a family who must remain silent or else. And did I mention this movie's produced by Michael Bay? Okay, so we both watched this movie together a few weeks back. You've already reviewed the movie.
Yes.
Check it out on his channel. But very quickly, did you like the movie, Chris?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was really good. It was a kind of a surprise because I didn't really know what to expect from Krasinski as a director. He had never tackled horror before, and even he said in interviews that horror isn't really something he's that fond of, and then when he directed this film, he kind of really got into it. And I think it's kind of funny because last year Jordan Peele made Get Out. That was really successful. He's a comedian. Krasinski, well known for his comedy, has made another very successful monetary and critical and audience. Everything is working out.
And I also enjoyed the movie too, but I'm not going to let you guys know how much until the end of the video. But first and foremost, this will be a spoiler-filled discussion video, so if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want to be spoiled, leave now. You know our quick thoughts on the movie. Get out of here! And don't make a sound on your way out, because something will eat you alive. Alright, so Chris, going into this movie, I did not expect what I got. Now, based on the trailers, it looked like a decent little low-budget horror film with some suspense, but it also starred Jim from The Office. And I did not expect the caliber of film I got, and I was blown away when I was watching this movie.
Yeah, I thought, I think you liked it a little more than me.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like,
yeah,
I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. But I just admired the concept behind the film. The fact that it was such a real... It's one of those concepts where you hear it and you're like, why hasn't this been done? Why? And I don't know if you know this, but some people think it has been done.
I think in some incarnations it has been done in Hollywood.
Well, there's a book.
There is a book?
There's a book called The Silence by this author named Tim Levins or something.
Okay.
And it has striking similarities to A Quiet Place.
Is there a lawsuit right now?
A lot of people think there should be one, but I mean, there's nothing truly happening yet. But it's very, very similar. The Silence, the book, look it up sometime. But no, I mean, I do think that Krasinski really did a great job with the movie. I think it was suspenseful from beginning to end, basically. There were no scenes for me that really dragged. I cared about the family, but not at first.
Not quite at first. We'll talk about that in just 1 second. So there's nothing left original in Hollywood. If it's based on a book, so be it. But it also reminded me of a few other pre-existing movies, such as Alien and Tremors, which both feature creature antagonist characters. And with Tremors, they're attracted with vibrations, and in this film, it's sound.
Yeah. Tremors was, and the thing about like Tremors and this is that in Tremors, it seems like you could maybe escape. Like if they hear you, you could maybe run away.
Like what you do is you stand on top of this, like this, and if you're Kevin Bacon, they can't get you.
Exactly. yeah, that's exactly what I meant.
Yeah.
Especially the Kevin Bacon part. But like in A Quiet Place, you make a sound, it's basically like instant death.
Oh yeah, instantaneously. And that brings up the next thing I wanted to talk about. The first scene in this film, when you start watching it, the film opens up and it says 89 days into the apocalypse or whatever is happening. And they have 3 kids for about 4 minutes of the movie. And then at one point, the one small kid, he's playing with this rocket ship. And he's trying to put batteries in it, and it makes sound. But the father, at one point, takes the batteries away from him. And then they're walking down this trail, and all of a sudden, the little kid puts these batteries he hid in his pocket in this rocket ship, and it starts making sound. And then it cuts to slow-mo. John Krasinski turns around. He's trying to get to his child desperately. And all of a sudden, out of the woods, the creature attacks him and rips his body apart, and it's phenomenal. And it's not like I like to see the mutilation of a small child. That's not why that scene's so amazing. Or really gripped me as much as it did. It's because, and we both agreed on this, the movie doesn't waste time. It sets up the threat of these creatures and makes you terrified of making a noise in this movie.
It needed it. It needed from the very beginning, especially since it's like a 90-minute movie, it needed from the very beginning, like that fear, knowing that these things will kill you, and the film isn't afraid either to have casualties like that. And so for the rest of the movie, after you've seen this young kid die, like in the opening scene, it never feels like there's like a possibility of escape, really. It feels like an inevitable move, like it's inevitable that many of them or almost all of them will die.
Yeah, there's consequences to your actions in this movie, and that's what movies lack nowadays. The other thing I really enjoyed about it was I thought, going into this movie, I knew nothing about it, okay? I thought they were going to hide the reason behind the characters having to be silent, like some invisible force in the distance that they never quite explain, almost like an M. Night Shyamalan movie, such as like The Village, where you don't get the twist until the end of the movie. And I thought this was going to pull one of those, but I was so relieved when instantly, within 10 minutes of the movie, you know what's happening.
Yeah, there's not some secret. It's not like some hidden thing. No, there's just these creatures in the woods, and they're going to kill you if you make a noise. Information is limited. You get like little nuggets of things, like for instance, 89 days, and then later it flashes to farther into the future, and you get some expositional like imagery with Krasinski's newspaper clippings and his notes, and you see what he's learned is trying to find out what the weakness is. And they do a good job of keeping most of that just face value. I talked about this in my review. This exact film can only happen in this specific time span into the apocalypse of this invasion. If it happened day 1, day 2, or week 1 or week 2, you'd see chaos. Yeah. But we get to see them as they've already slightly adapted and they've figured out a few things. So they have a system in place already. They have like a system around their farm that lets them survive. Communicating
with sign language throughout the film, which is a really interesting aspect of the movie.
Right.
And also, for budget constraints, it's easier to make them stuck on their small farm, only 5 characters in the film, rather than a post-apocalyptic zombie outbreak horde. Yeah.
Perfect.
It really is.
From like a production standpoint. Yeah. It's a perfect, from like, I could see any, especially with someone like Krasinski attached to it, I could see any studio head being like, okay, there's like 5 people in this movie. It takes place mostly one location. It's easy. We'll do it. Yeah. And it's going to make its budget back.
But, yeah, talking about that, the one thing, when I watch movies, maybe I think a little bit too logically, I'm thinking if there's an alien invasion of creatures that, once they hear you, dismantle your body, why are we living in a farmhouse in the middle of a cornfield? How about we go to the nearest bunker that's underground and maybe just live life there?
I feel like I've seen comments like that, thoughts like that, like nitpicks and stuff. Like, I saw this one person who said, like, put, like, a radio-controlled speaker in the middle of the yard, line it with grenades and mines, and then, like, turn on a radio-controlled speaker and go, like, hey, blah, 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 come here, creatures, and they all come to the speaker, and you just blow them up. I'm like, sure, that's a great idea if you have access to military weaponry.
Yes.
And all of this technology that you're just supposed to have. Like, there are ways to kill these creatures. There's ways to do it. It's just like, that doesn't mean this one family at this farm has all of this technology.
No, but they have an endless supply of hearing aids, and at the end of the movie, that is how they defeat the creatures. Yeah. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Right. I do have one legitimate nitpick, for sure, and that's the fact that they have electricity, and you never see a generator. No. And I guess in the original shooting script, before, I should say, not the shooting script, but one of the original scripts, they had cell phones, and they texted throughout the film. Yeah. And I'm so glad they removed that, because that would mean that, like, some guy is just working at, like, T-Mobile still, who's, like, making sure everything stays online.
Yeah, the satellite towers are still active and everything else. Maybe, you know what, maybe they have solar-powered electricity.
They could have solar-powered,
We'll go with that.
But again, you never see that.
You do never see
that. To my
that.
knowledge, you never see the solar panels, and you never see a generator.
But I will say, in defense of the movie, when I was watching the film, in all honesty, it was so thrilling and suspenseful, I didn't care.
Sure. Yeah, and I didn't think about it till the end either.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I was sitting watching the credits, wow, that was really thrilling and that was intense. And then I was like, what about the electricity thing?
John Krasinski, other than 13 Hours, I'm so used to him being a comedic actor in The Office, and Emily Blunt, she's a phenomenal actress,
Right.
so she gave a great performance. There's one scene with Emily Blunt in this movie that I was captivated by, and it's the scene where she is pregnant throughout this film, and there's a scene where one of the creatures invades the house, and she's stuck in there, and she's about to be eaten alive, and she's actually giving birth in the process,
Right.
and she's in this restroom just in pain and agony, laying in a bathtub, and I thought that was great.
Yeah, it is. It's a really good way of basically taking her worst fear and making it come true.
Yeah.
Giving birth while one of these things is around.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, that's also a terrible thought. Is, well, this baby is going to cry. The baby has no idea what's going on. So how do we... And they had like this little oxygen mask thing, basically, where they would put the baby in a box.
That's how you make a baby stop crying.
Unfortunately, how it would have to happen, and keep the sound out of there, but also provide oxygen. So it's a kind of a chilling thought to think of how you would do all of these normal things like raise an infant or eat or work. Like they have to go out. They have the corn, so gratefully they can very quietly
pick the corn.
corn.
Yeah.
So there's all. That was one of my favorite parts of the film, was watching them figure out how to do everyday tasks. Like instead of eating with a plate, they had a big lettuce leaf. And instead of using utensils, they had to use their fingers. I like watching them figure out how to do everyday tasks without making sound.
Yeah, just the normal logistical things. And even going back to the baby in the box, which sounds odd.
It does.
The whole entire film up until that point, I kept thinking, okay, that baby is going to be born. It's going to cry.
Yeah.
Please address this situation.
Exactly.
And the thing is, the film does answer so many questions that you would have as an audience member, to the most part, other than how they have electricity and things like that. But the normal everyday things, the movie does answer, and I really appreciated that.
Now, unfortunately, there's a few things that I was thinking of too. Like, what if you were like a sleep talker? You're just asleep. Hey, what am I? Oh shit! And you die.
Now let's talk about the antagonists of the film, the creatures that hunt with only sound. I thought from a creature standpoint and a visual one, they were CG,
right?
But it was well done CG, and it was utilized only when they had to. And I thought it looked phenomenal. Like, I liked the creature design. I liked the way that they hunted, and it showed their huge, ginormous eardrums at one point, so you could understand physically what they're capable of doing and how they do it.
Yeah, they were good. They did a pretty good job of, like, not necessarily hiding them, but just obscuring them. They would be seen through branches, through trees. Even in the end, when it's coming into their basement and Emily Blunt has the gun, there's this really great wide I still remember that has Emily and the daughter on the right side of the frame, and then the creature approaching on the left, and blocking him is like all this shelf equipment and stuff, and so you can kind of see it behind it, and they have close-ups and stuff, like you said, the eardrums, but they do a good job of showing the creatures, but not like having these grandmaster wides of them all the time that just give everything away instantly. They're not like, it's not like it's hidden for the whole movie.
But there's just enough mystique to make you intrigued. Or the one scene where Emily Blunt's in the underground barn where she hides the baby in the box, and the creature goes in the water and it's swimming around. And
that was good.
That was, once again, this film, I can't say it enough, it's so suspenseful. And I haven't been on the edge of my seat as much for a film, and I can't even remember the last time.
Yeah, they did a great job with the concept of just... Because, again, from the beginning, you see the kid die, and you're like, wow, all these people are screwed, basically.
Shit just got real.
And for the rest of the film, you recognize that the slightest misstep is going to result in death. And since they build up a fairly authentic family with real problems and domestic issues, it feels scary. Like, it's not just something might pop out. Oh no! It feels like anybody is expendable, really.
And it feels like a real family dynamic. It feels like there's a father, a wife, and a couple kids, and it feels like they are a real family with real issues. And another thing, speaking of the kids, this film has 2 child actors. Now, typically, I hate child actors in films. It all started with Haley Joel Osment back in the 1990s. Don't ask questions. Just something about the Sixth Sense rubbed me the wrong way. Anyway, the 2 kid actors in this film are great.
They are.
They felt like real kids. Now, there is a point in the movie where the script makes you intentionally hate the young daughter.
Yeah, I mean, the young actress, Millicent, I believe her first name is, she's deaf in real life as well. And so there was a really authentic performance there.
Okay, yeah.
And it also explains, like, for the character, it also explains why the whole family just knows sign language, because they had to learn for their daughter before it ever happened. So they had an advantage. They had a leg up on everyone else.
And that's why they're still alive and everyone else is dead.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it also ties into the end, because she's the one who finds out how to kill them with that device.
Yeah, it's one of those movie tropes where one character's weakness also becomes their strength. And her disability of not being able to hear, well, that's what pretty much saves everyone's life at the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's smart writing. And it's one of those things where it's like it's a horror movie. It's 90 minutes. It's PG-13. It's really fun. People like it. It's cool. You can watch the movie and have fun. But it's like they actually tried.
Now, the thing about movies is they should contain scenes that you remember and really make you feel something. And this film had a few really good scenes I can still visually remember. One is John Krasinski, when the family's under attack, their creatures are on their property. They have this defense mechanism where they light fireworks off in the sky.
One of the best scenes.
As a distraction. And the way it was shot, you see John Krasinski running, and in the background, the fireworks are exploding.
Really great
chills
stuff.
down my...
Really great stuff, because they hold off what it is they're talking about for a long time. They keep calling it like the rocket or rockets or whatever. Yeah. And you're thinking, well, is there some sort of like rocket ship they made? Like a tiny little rocket, like a 5th grade science project type thing? And they hold it. They hold it off. They hold it off. You see them lighting something, and then as soon as you see that, it just cuts to him running. And it was a really, really great reveal. And moments like that make this movie special. Yeah, and the music amps up. It was so amazing. That's what I like. And the other scene also featuring John Krasinski, and this is probably my favorite scene of the entire film. It's where both of his kids are trapped in this pickup truck, and John Krasinski knows that they're about to meet their demise. Right. And in order to save them, he has to sacrifice himself. Yeah. And then you see this one shot of his daughter looking him in the eyes. And he's like, I love you. Mm-hmm. He lips the words. And then he just screams. Yeah. I think thinking about that like makes me feel something. Like, movies don't make me feel anything anymore, Chris. And this one did. I'm glad it did. I thought I was dead inside. That was I thought I was dead inside. That was a good scene for sure. Yeah. Minus the emotional context, it reminded me of the scene in Predator with Arnold just That's true. Minus the emotional context, and obviously. John Krasinski isn't covered in mud. Yeah. But no, that was a great scene because, like I said, they tried. They set up a real character dispute between the father and daughter where she didn't think the father loved her anymore, and he hadn't really expressed that lately. Like, his son is like, "Do you love her?" And he's like, "Of course." And he's like, "Maybe you should tell her that." He showed her. Yeah, well, he definitely made the ultimate sacrifice. Do you think he could have just picked up a rock and threw it at something like 20 feet that way, and then be like, "Let's get out of here"? Now let's cut to the very end of the film. You finally realize what the weakness of the creatures are. Right. It's the frequencies made by hearing aids and speakers, and the young girl figures that out, which is a little convenient because she does figure it out at the last possible second necessary. My one minor complaint with the movie. When else would halfway through? Yeah, it's... Hey, we figured it out. There's 3 in the area. All right, let's what are we going to do for the rest of the movie? Yeah, just, that's just one little thing. But the very end of the film, which takes place in the basement... I really enjoyed it, but the very, very last scene where you understand that they do have a defense mechanism, they can fight these creatures now, but the tone felt a little bit off. You see Emily Blunt, and she takes a shotgun and goes, like it's some 1980s action movie, let's do this. And then it just cuts to black. I liked it. I didn't dislike it. It just felt tonally... like, that was Michael Bay's one idea. That was the one idea he had. By the way, let's have the last shot. She just takes the gun, okay. And John Krasinski's like, well, he gave us, like, a lot of money, so I guess we're going to do it. Yeah, we got away with not putting robots in the thing. I liked it. Cause, and there was a lady sitting next to me, and she was like, what the fuck? And I was like, I didn't say anything, but I was thinking, like, what? I mean... do we have to see her kill the other 2? No. Like, we know what's going to happen. It's a great little finale. It's ambiguous, and I like that. Maybe... but we know what's going to happen. She's leading them there. She's going to blow their heads off. She's going to turn up the hearing aid. Maybe she kills one of them, and the other one kills everyone in the family. I'm thinking she got away with it. Now, here's our final flicking thoughts on A Quiet Place. Chris, what did you think about the movie? I thought it was great. Phenomenal. Yeah, it was really good.
All right. Simple.
A really good movie. It was awesome.
This is my favorite movie so far of 2018.
Really? Okay.
I went into this movie not expecting much, and I was blown away because this is what I wanted, and I have not gotten a movie like this in a very long time. I think the next closest example of a film like this would be something like Annihilation, which came out a few months back.
Yeah, which is also really good.
Which is really good, but I prefer A Quiet Place over that film. So I'm going to have to give A Quiet Place an A. Alright guys, so that was our spoiler discussion on A Quiet Place. I thought I owed it to you guys because a normal review, this movie deserved more in my opinion, and there was so much I wanted to talk about I couldn't cover in just a review. So anyway, I appreciate my good pal Chris for joining me.
Absolutely.
It's 7 o'clock in the morning. We skipped sleep last night, but it was worth it.
Yep.
As always, guys, make sure you check out Chris's channel. I'll put the link down below. Go subscribe to him. Oh man, it's so late. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. And as always, leave your thoughts, your opinions, your comments down below. Let me know what you thought about the movie. Or do you like the movie Tremors? You know what the problem is nowadays? Enough movies don't have Kevin Bacon in them. That's the problem with movies nowadays.
I need to still laugh.
As always, guys, like I said, leave your comments down below. And now, let me talk about your Stardust reactions to the movie A Quiet Place. Do you want to take off, Chris? Or...
Sure.
All right. Well, I'll see you later, man.
I'll see you later, man.
Put it there, partner.
All right.
Get out of here.
All right.
And now it's time to feature your reactions to a film, A Quiet Place, that you left me on Stardust. So once again, if you don't know what Stardust is, it's a free-to-download app where you can post your quick reactions to old movies, new movies, or TV shows, and it's where I post my first thoughts on every single movie I see in the theater. So if you don't want to wait a week or two for my movie reviews and you want my quick thoughts, definitely follow the Flickpick on Stardust. Once again, all links are down below.
Being a $17 million film, it does not look like a small movie. The production aspects of this movie are really rich. The background score is effective. The cinematography is also really good.
I agree with you. A Quiet Place had a low budget, and it didn't feel like a low budget film because the story was so captivating. You don't really notice the budget constraints or restrictions. It perfectly worked for the story that it had to tell.
The performances were so great. It was so intense with such a short runtime, and they still told the story to the best ability. There wasn't much dialogue in it, and they still expressed their emotions perfectly. I loved this movie so much. There's tiny nitpicks, but it's great. See it.
That's a really good point. There is a lack of dialogue throughout this film, but never once do you question the emotions or feelings from the characters because they're expressed so well. It reminds me of other movies with very little dialogue. Movies like Castaway. You always know what Tom Hanks is feeling based on his body language.
I didn't like the last scene. The last scene of the movie was a kind of cheesy. It didn't have the same tone of the movie, so I didn't like the last scene, but it's okay.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like I said during our discussion video, the last scene tonally does feel a little bit different. It's not bad, it just tonally feels different than the rest of the movie.
As far as A Quiet Place goes, I've seen 25 movies this year, and it's probably my favorite of the year. The opening and the third act are essentially perfection. Everything in between is still really good. Krasinski directed the hell out of this movie.
John Krasinski did direct the hell out of this movie, and he blew me away as a director. I can't wait to see what he does next. Thank you guys for the reactions. I couldn't feature every single one of them because they just wouldn't all fit into one video. I tried my best, but I really do appreciate it. And once again, make sure you follow me on Stardust. That way in the future I can feature more of your reactions because I like to look at your faces and it's fun just going back and forth, and I want to include you guys in my reviews and I like to know your thoughts and feature you guys. So once again, all links to Stardust down below. And as always, make sure you follow me, the Flickpick. All links to Stardust down below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. That way I can see you next time.